Throw it up, throw it up. Watch it all fall out. Blow it up, blow it up. That's how we ball out. Throw it up, throw it up.
Hey Young America, this is Jasmine Jones, and thank you again for tuning in to the weekly address to Young Americans, where we come together to focus on topics that help young people live more successful lives. This broadcast is sponsored by an organization called U, which stands for Young, Organized, and United. Alright, so today's conversation comes at a very important time of the year. It's tax season. And I know many of us feel very different ways about it. There's some of us who have been praying, counting down since Christmas, like, please, let January 31st get here. And then there are other people like, oh, for real though, dog. I am not in the mood for tax season. I don't even want to think about it. I ain't filing until April 15th. So I just want to say I understand both groups out there. So today what I want to talk about is how to approach tax season and make it an opportunity for you, whether you get a refund or whether you owe. So before starting, I'm going to tell you a little story like I like to do. And I want to talk about my first time on filing taxes, okay? So it was back in 2010, and it was the first time I'd had a job, and first time I was hearing about filing taxes, right? So I had this coworker, and he was talking to me. He was going on like, yeah, it's tax season, I filed my taxes and all this stuff. And he said, I got all this money back, and I was able to, catch up on bills, and I was able to buy a few things for myself. So like any other natural person, I started to get hyped. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going home. I'm getting all my paperwork. I'm about to file these taxes. I'm about to get this money. I was thinking about everything in the world, right? So I sit down at my computer, got all my paperwork with me, and I began to put in my paper, my information. Lo and behold, my calculator began to change, and I started to see that I wasn't getting a refund. I was beginning to owe. So I started freaking out. And by the end of putting everything in the system, I found out that I wasn't getting a refund. I found out I had actually owed $2,000. So, of course, I freaked out. I was like, okay, I got to go see a professional because maybe I typed in something wrong. It's my first time putting in my taxes myself. So within 2 minutes of sitting in his chair, he was like, no. He was like, you did not pay enough taxes for your part-time job. So after freaking out, I was like, all right, you got to do something about it. And that's where it leads me to this conversation and all the things I'm hopefully going to share with you today. Now, I want to set the preface that this story does not just sit with me. This is a story of millions of young people who may have not known how to fill out a W-4, or may have been in a situation where they had a part-time job like myself, but that part-time job gave you enough to put you in a higher tax bracket to get taxed more. So regardless, those things can play a role in what you owe back and what you get your refund in. And so what I want to talk about today is whether you're in either of those spots, how to make this an opportunity for you, whether it's this year or next year, okay? So let's first start with just getting prepared for tax season, okay? Now you need all your paperwork. Okay, now I'm going to give you just the baseline. Okay, you need all your W-2s for every job that you worked. If you worked independently, that's a different tax form. You should know what it is. I wish I could tell you, but for everyone who has an employer, it's a W-2. Okay, then for anybody out there who's paying student loans right now, you need a form called a 1098. Okay, because that form is actually additional cash for you according to the American Opportunity Credit. Okay, this is a great thing where you get money back because you paid on your loans. Okay, so you need all your loan papers, so call every loan provider and you get your 1098s. Okay, and then the last form that I definitely want to make sure everybody has is their 1099s. 1099s are when you have saved, right, in your 401ks with your employer. You get money back on that, which is amazing to me. But it definitely is something that you want to make sure you get into the system if you are able to save and you've been able to do that the past year. So those are the three forms I want to tell you. Now, of course, there are people who donate with heavy amounts. If you have children, if you have property, or if you have like accounts in the Swiss, like those type of things, you might actually need a professional for, and you'll need a whole lot of other different paperwork than the three that I named. Okay, but those, you want to make sure that you have all your paperwork so you can guarantee that you get the most money back. Okay, you want to get the most money back, or you want to have the most accurate view of what you actually owe. okay? And that's important because if you think about it, you know, like last week's show, how I said the Wells Fargo can always find you. If Wells Fargo can find you, imagine what the government can do, okay? The IRS will always find you. So you want to make sure that you report out everything that you took in and that you do it accurately and honestly. Okay, and I just want to give you kind of an understanding that how you do kind of get caught if something does happen is, think about famous people. They always get caught out for tax evasion, and that is not uncommon. That happens to regular people probably way more than them. So just put yourself in those shoes and say, I never want to be there, so make sure you file and report everything. Okay. So now my last two things is I just want to make sure I focus on each group independently. For those who owe, I want to speak to you first because I understand the feeling of owing, and it is not a good feeling, and it's actually kind of scary because when I had my issue, I honestly did not know where I was going to get $2,000. So I did a lot of research to figure out what my options were, and so I'm going to tell you about three very quickly. Okay, so of course you can set up automatic payments with the IRS, and you could do it throughout the year. They kind of charge you a little bit up front on your bank card for using it, but you can at least take out a little bit a month to do that if you can do that. Okay, the second thing you could do is you can save the money yourself and send in a check a few months after April 15th. I believe you just call a representative and you can set that up. Now I'm going to tell you what I did because I knew I wasn't going to come up with $2,000. That just wasn't going to happen. And I just needed to be honest with myself. So what I did was I went to the HR department for both my full-time and my part-time job. I asked them, can I readjust my W-4s? And then I took out all exemptions. I'm a single filer and I don't have kids yet, so I don't need any exemptions right now. That was one. The second thing I did was I readjusted how much they were able to withdraw from my checks. Okay, so I did mine plus 50 for both. Now I will tell you that did a direct hit on my pocket. Like that was not an easy decision, but I knew that that was the best way that I can guarantee I could take care of this $2,000 debt, but then also I could probably get some money back on the back end. And at the end of that story, when I was able to file the next year, I did pay back it and I got $1,700 back. So it does work. You can readjust your tax papers. A lot of people, I'm not sure if they do that or not, but it definitely worked for me, and I actually keep it consistent so I can guarantee a refund every year. So hopefully that helps somebody out there. Now, for those of you who will get a refund, okay, I really encourage everybody to make a financial plan with that money. Okay, before it hits the bank account. Okay, so that means that, you know, one of the smartest things I've seen a lot of young people do is start a savings account. If you don't have one yet, this allows you to get a good enough amount of money in, and you know, you could just save throughout the year, you can add to it, but it does give you that boost, right? Now I understand if people got debts to pay and things like that, take care of those, but if you do have a little bit left over and you're kind of in between, definitely put it into a savings account because that'll benefit you down the road when you have an emergency or something like that. But what I'm trying to prevent you from being is that person, which I know who that person is because I have been that person who gets this large sum amount of money in February, blows it all on like clothes, food, and whatever else is out there, and then can't pay March rent. I'm just like, no! Right? Because I don't want to be that person. I have been that person. I'm like, where did that money go, girl? And I'm crying about it in the summertime because I wish I had it again. So don't be that person. Make sure you make a plan for your money so that you feel good about where it goes. You could even do things like doctor's appointments you've been holding off because it may be a bigger bill, or getting something fixed in your house like this doggone fire alarm I need to get fixed. I know y'all can hear it. You know, things like that are good investments with the money as well. So just make a plan for it. Think about it before it comes to your account so that you know how you want to spend your money. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Next week's show is for all my non-cookers. Okay, I know a lot of people are out there, and it's called If You Can't Cook, Let's Start with the Sandwich. And what we're going to begin is a series on how to look at food and understand food, and then how to just literally start with the basics. So I hope you're able to join. See you next week. Bye-bye.
All I see is signs, all I see is dollar signs.